What's up, leaders? Welcome to another episode of Lead From Here podcast. I'm Jason. Today we are talking about humility in leadership. Humility is an interesting word. The actual definition of humility is a modest or low view of one's importance. Semicolon, humble. Humble means free of arrogance. So ultimately, humility, humbleness, being humble, all of those things kind of mean not thinking too highly of yourself. There's a great quote by C.S. Lewis that says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. When you talk about humility in leadership, it's easy, especially in a successful company, for you as a leader to feel very confident and very powerful in your role and understanding like what's going on in the business and where the teams are doing a great job and all this stuff is working. And I think all those things are good things to feel overall. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's bad to feel good about what you're doing. It's not bad to feel confident in the job you're doing. None of those are inherently bad. And I think it's very clear what humility is. And that's very focused on like, hey, like looking out for everybody else. And there is a definite benefit to that as a leader, to making sure that you're taking care of everything and you're open to learning, you're open to growth, you're open to all those things. Where I think humility kind of goes off the rails is when people don't understand what it means. And they don't understand how to show that and still be strong. They should be able to show humility while they're also getting compliments. All of those things. That's stuff that I struggle with constantly. So the biggest mistake people make with humility that I see is that they think that it means weakness or submissiveness. And that is not it at all. Like, this is not a weak stance. This is a very courageous stance, and that you are courageous enough with your own abilities or your own talents or your own impact and confidence within the leadership core or within your team, that you aren't afraid to say, I don't know. I will go find out. I know I can get the answer. I just don't have the answer right now. Asking people for help, or asking people to explain things, learning from others. All those things are great things. That is humility. You're able to say, I'm confident enough in myself and my skills everywhere else that I can say I need help here. And then lastly, the one thing that I think is really important is making sure you're giving credit where credit's due. It's not like saying like, oh no, that wasn't me at all. I didn't do anything there. Like, you are a leader of the team. You are part of the team. You absolutely have impact on their ability to succeed. You also have an impact on their ability to fail, but hopefully we're focusing positively on success here. So ultimately, you have an impact. So you should embrace that. You should own that. Now, on to the downfalls of humility. One is it can make you look indecisive. And that is because a lot of people that have a lot of humility tend to differ very heavily towards the team and making sure we have consensus. And based on the last few episodes, like, you also have to be able to make decision leaders. So as long as you're doing that, you can get consensus, you can ask a lot of questions, you can get a lot of input, as long as you're willing to make a decision. Don't let it linger and just go forward. One of the other downfalls is it may hinder your career growth. Like, that, it sounds silly, but like, if you're constantly giving credit to everywhere else and you're not ever stepping up and saying like, hey, yeah, I did do that, I felt good about that, like, don't ever take credit away from the team. If they did something, you always give them credit. But also, if somebody says, hey, you did a fantastic job leading that, don't say, it's just my job. Or like, no, it's all the team, I didn't do anything. Like, you have to take ownership of what you've done. And you should also give them ownership in the things that they've done. The last downfall of humility is you can actually lead your team down a path of less team development. And that is, it's interesting because really it comes back to delegation, right? So as a leader, if you have a lot of humility, you're looking out for everybody else, you're like, man, I want the team to be successful. I don't want to put them in a bad spot, or I don't want to add too much to their plate. And you're underwater as a leader. If you can't offload some of that stuff and delegate and help people grow, you're hurting yourself by not being able to get all your work done. You're also hurting your team by not giving them opportunities, because you think living with humility, you're saying like, listen, I'm looking out for them. They don't need more on their plate. Maybe they do. From a career development perspective, maybe they do. Maybe they need to push beyond where they are now. So it's up to you to know when that is and what's going on. If you do that and you delegate, the humility will work itself out in the long run and you will be in a good spot. Why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about humility? And I think this is something that showing humility. So why am I talking about humility? Like, what brought this about? And I read this stat that I thought was very interesting, because I think it's humbleness, humility. It's about the same thing, basically. Ultimately, 95% of employees wish that their leader was humble. So why am I talking about humility? Why am I going into this topic? What triggered this thought? Because it is important, absolutely. I think it is. But I think the interesting part is the data behind it and what people are looking for and what people think they are. And 95% of employees want a leader that is humble or shows humility. 97% of leaders surveyed want to be that leader. They want to be humble. They want to show humility. They want to be the leader that people want. That all sounds great, and that lines up pretty good. Where it goes off the rails is 80% of leaders think they're that leader. Sadly, 37% of employees, 37, less than half of the people in the employee role are saying their leader is not that humble leader. So there's a lot of people that think they're that humble leader. There's a lot of people that are not. It's important for you to understand your impact on the team and ask questions and build the trust so people can tell you whether they feel that way or not. Kind of all goes back to the same stuff over and over again. But I think that's the important part, right? Is knowing that you are doing everything you can and then being open to feedback when it happens. If you do those two things, you're probably on the right path. Just keep doing that. I hope this is helpful. I know this is kind of a off the wall topic today, but I think it's very important. So show humility, be humble, and just lead from your heart. Take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and if you like what you're hearing, please like, follow, subscribe. Hit me up at jason@leadfromhere.co if you have any questions. Otherwise, take care.